that, I wanted to ask you a spiritual question. Ephesians chapter 1, verses 16 through 23, it reads, "Cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers, that the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him." The way I read that is we're supposed to be worshiping and not worrying. You obviously know about the Kim Clement prophecies. So do I. I really do believe that we're going to come out on top. But how do you, sir, emotionally process and stay in a attitude of gratefulness and of thanksgiving when you have communist far-left loons telling people not to have Thanksgiving? How do you personally do it? Because you're fighting for our country. You and Sidney Powell are doing great things, and as a reward, no good deed goes unpunished. I mean, Fox decides to dedicate an entire hour and then another hour just ripping you guys, saying you must be conspiracy theorists or crazy people. How do you cease not to give thanks and making mention of God throughout the day? How do you keep that positive attitude, sir? How do you do it?
Well, let me tell you, I try to follow the teaching of Jesus Christ. And Jesus says, live one day at a time. Tomorrow will take care of itself. So from my personal faith, I ask every morning after giving blessings for the day, I ask the Holy Spirit to tell me exactly what to do. And then I listen. And I do it. I obey God. Then I go to bed at night. I give God all the credit and all the praise, and pray for a lot of people and the country. And I get some rest. I get up the next day. I do it all over again. Next day, I do it all over again. I believe that Ken Clement's prophecy is right.
Amen.
I believe that was God giving us 2+ years, actually more, of notice to get ready. I believe, from my own spiritual faith, that we're going to come out of this in the next several weeks or however long in a way that people will know once again that God is real. God showed us he was real when Jesus rose from the dead and came back 3 times on earth, and that was the advent of modern Christianity and the belief in Jesus. I believe we're getting ready to see again that God is real, and I believe that it's going to be what's been referred to, and it's in the Bible, as the second or final harvest, where a lot of people have another opportunity to come back home to their Creator in heaven. So we're going to have some good times in the near term, because the second harvest is going to take place.
Yes.
How long it's going to last, I don't know, but I know that we've got to have rapture, 7 years of tribulation, and then Armageddon. What people in this world need to do is to realize that God is real, make sure they spend all of their time doing things that please God and not doing things that do not please God.
This show is going to set you free of the fear and the worry. I want you to do, folks, if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com, and you click on the Trump prophecies, you can see the prophecies that Mr. Lin Wood just referenced. And if you want to see, and I know you do, 18 pages of documented voter fraud, and I would like for you to explain this here, Lin. There are many people giving an affidavit. Please explain the difference between what an affidavit and an accusation is.
Well, an accusation is just that. It accuses you of some act. And in this instance, there have been accusations of voter fraud. An affidavit is evidence. An affidavit is sworn testimony. I know that in Georgia, in my case, we had 15 affidavits. If we'd had time, we could have gotten 15,000. There was voter fraud all over this state in connection with the recount. So there's plenty of evidence. I've spoken at length with Sidney Powell. I don't represent the president, but I do consult with Sidney under a joint common interest agreement because of my lawsuit in Georgia. I've seen sworn affidavits. I've seen sworn testimony by video of some of the individuals involved, particularly the people in Venezuela. Sidney Powell is telling the American public the truth.
Yes,
and
she
in
is.
time, she's going to file the lawsuits, and the American public's going to see it. But the problem is the media, which has been engaging in increasing censorship, has now almost censored it so that the people that know the truth are almost an echo chamber telling it to themselves. And they've blocked out the mass of other people in this country so that you don't hear about Sidney Powell on mainstream media, and you don't get the word out to the people that most need to hear it So we've got a propaganda tool of the Communist Party. That's our media. Plain and simple. Look at who owns the media.
Yep.
You'll figure it out. It's communism. It's globalists like George Soros and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. And there's an element of the military-industrial complex involved because they're trying to hide the amount of money that's missing from the Pentagon budget, and they want to keep that gravy train rolling. Joe Biden is a criminal.
Will he go to jail?
I believe that Barack Obama was a criminal. I believe that Hillary Clinton was a criminal. And sadly, I believe that George Bush 41 and 43 were also heads of criminal enterprises. It sounds outrageous, but I believe in time the American public is going to learn the truth. God says every lie will be revealed. Stay tuned. Wait on the Lord. Every lie is going to be revealed.
Okay, Tim Redmond, what question do you have for the great American patriot and lawyer, Lin Wood?
Yeah, Mr. Wood, I'm representing a lot of folks out there that see hundreds of thousands of ballots or just Biden only showing up weird hours of the night. And I just see, 2,000 affidavits. I'm seeing all these facts here, but the press is very effective in that. And so how real is this case to do a body slam on these criminals and to get an accurate and correct election vote count going and their criminal activities revealed?
Well, let me preface this comment by saying that it's not direct. I haven't addressed this issue with the president, but I watched Donald Trump, and I believe that Donald Trump is a genius. I met him on March the 11th when he asked me to come up to the White House. That was the day that the worldwide pandemic was declared. I spent a few minutes with him. I can tell you that Donald Trump is a man of God. He may not have been one coming into the White House, but he's a man of God now. He's found God. So I believe that Donald Trump, because I believe God names you in the disguise of your parents, Trump's last name is Trump. Trump's going to trump them all. Look back at the 2018 time period, and you'll see that President Trump entered an executive order with some severe sanctions. It addressed foreign interference with a national election. I think President Trump saw this coming. He's got the spirit of Elijah. That's why his middle name is John. I also believe his first name is Donald, by the way, for Donald's Bible that he was given by his mother. Donald was a young man that led a fiery revival in an island overseas. I think President Trump is going to trump him. I think on his time, when he feels like the country needs to know, I think there's going to be proof positive. You also should note that servers of Citel were seized in Frankfurt a couple of 3 days ago. I believe those servers will show the actual vote. I believe that Donald Trump won somewhere around 80 million votes. I believe he also won 410 electoral votes. I think it was the largest landslide in American history, and they tried to steal it from him, but he won by so much, they had to cheat that much more. And when you're trying to do fraud at the last minute, you make mistakes. They made a lot of mistakes. They've been caught. The question now is, what are they going to do? I'm afraid they're going to continue on the path to seize power in this country, so we're in for some tough days.
Now, I will say this, the Dominion engineer, this is a Dominion engineer by the name of Eric Coomer. Eric Coomer was posting on social media, and I'm quoting, so I'm going to have to beat myself, but he says that he'd made ensure that Trump wouldn't win on social media. And this is the programmer. So the devil, the Luciferians, they're really out. They're really showing their hand. We go back to the Trump analogy, the Trump card. I mean, these guys are showing their hand. It's like Captain Obvious is working for these people at this point.
Well, what you're going to find, I believe, again, based on, you hear something here and there and you try to connect the dots. I think you're going to find in time that Obama and Biden used the same type of a computer deal in Florida in the 2012 election. Hillary Clinton used it in 2016. That's why she was so sure she was going to win.
Oh.
But at that time, Trump won by so many votes that he beat the algorithm. If you had the real vote from 2016, I believe Donald Trump won the popular vote as well as a mass win in the Electoral College. They used it again in 2018 to win the midterms in the House.
Yep.
But people weren't paying attention then. And then they added in 2020 the mail ballots. Now, why do we need mail ballots? What was the excuse? The excuse was COVID. I believe COVID was a biological weapon that derived out of China. I think it was designed to do many things, one of which was to influence people to vote by mail. They're trying to distance us. They're trying to isolate us. They're trying to scare us. The mask are a joke. I've studied the mask issue. The mask doesn't protect you from anything.
Now, real quick, we're not here to talk about this, but I can't. Any time that I can share truth, I can't hold back. But the actual Wuhan lab that is the epicenter of the China virus, that very laboratory, if you look it up right now, just type into Google, Dr. Fauci backed the controversial Wuhan lab with U.S. dollars. So the very research that President Trump banned, which is research involving fetal tissue, that's called gain-of-function research, the very man who was doing that research is Dr. Fauci. And the very research that causes the creation of a pandemic is gain-of-function research. And I quote from Newsweek, many scientists have criticized gain-of-function research, which involves manipulating viruses in the lab to explore their potential for infecting humans because it creates the risk of starting a pandemic.
It's like Bill Gates. They want to take over the world, one world government. That's Soros, the big reset. They want to take it over and develop it where there's a ruling elite and then there's a subservient working class. Sounds like communism too, doesn't it?
Al Gore is excited about the Great Reset. The communists are excited about the Great Reset. George Soros is excited about the Great Reset. AOC is excited about the Great Reset. I'm going to go ahead and let you ask your question, Mr. Steve Hunter, for Mr. Lin Wood there.
Mr. Wood, you're right in the middle of Georgia. You're in Atlanta. What's the process that you guys are going through trying to get a recount on the votes, and how does that compare to what's going on in Arizona, what's going on in Michigan, and how do you also keep your people focused every day and going and fighting the fight?
Well, let me go to the last question first. I think it's tough from Twitter and Parler that there's a growing sense of weariness in the country. It's been one heck of a year, and now they're facing all this confusion about the election. But I believe that people are going to, over the next few weeks, realize that the only person that can save us is not a person on earth, but the only thing that's going to save us is faith in God. God's going to save us. But in terms of the real world, which is a lie, the real world, you still have to work hard, and we're working hard in Georgia. We did to try to get a legitimate recount where they would pull out and distinguish between the valid and the invalid votes. But our governor and our Secretary of State, they didn't do that. All they did was to recount the same invalid votes. The governor of Georgia, he's corrupt with Chinese money. That's not an accusation alone. I have evidence to show it. The Secretary of State in Georgia, these two Republicans, the governor and the Secretary of State, Brad Rassenberger, is corrupted by Chinese money. When you take their money, they own you. And so they're not supporting President Trump. They're not supporting the people of Georgia that voted overwhelmingly for President Trump. There's going to be a day of reckoning for Brian Kemp. There's going to be a day of reckoning for Brad Rassenberger. Both of those individuals will face that reckoning on earth. We'll see what happens to them when the time comes that they face God and they come to final judgment. That's only God knows what he'll do with them.
Well, and I want to pile on there real quick. People don't know this again, but if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, you can learn more about this. But if you go to timetofreeamerica.com, Time to Free America, and you click on the Trump prophecies, Ken Clement actually predicted that in the year 2020, there was going to be a tumultuous year. Lance Wallnau, the prophet, said there was going to be a contested election. And after this contested election, a lot of Democrats we're going to find a lot of corruption on the Democrat side, but we're going to find some deep state Republicans too. And it's going to be a lot
of them.
The way I interpreted the prophecy, the way I heard it is it was like a lot of Democrats would be exposed and then also a lot of Republicans. So it seemed like there's mass corruption on both sides. Would you agree with that? Is that how you interpreted the Kim Clement prophecies, or just based off of the evidence you're seeing?
Well, I absolutely agree with that. I think there's almost as much corruption in the Republican Party as there is in the Democrat, and I've seen it firsthand in Georgia in the last 2 weeks. Ken Clement said, and I believe he was, in fact, telling you a prophecy that is true. He said and described how angry God is with this world. He's angry with the organized church, and as Ken Clement said, he was going to humble this nation, bring it to its knees. People would look around and say, who can I trust? Who can I trust? Right now, I can tell you in the real world, you don't know who to trust and who not to. And I believe that people are going to find when this is over that you go to faith in the times of darkness, as Ken Clement said, and you learn that God saved us. Because in the end of the day, you can only trust God.
What question do you have, Jordan?
With the mass censorship going on, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, if you're the average American watching the average broadcasting stations, and they are telling us who our president already is, does that mean that that is actual factual statement, or is that an opinion? Can you tell us when we will actually know who the real president of the American it will be?
I can tell you that the statements that Joe Biden is the president-elect can be described in one word: lie. It's a lie they're trying to sell to the public to try to think it's true. There's only one way, and one way only, that you can become the president-elect. You can become the president-elect before the Electoral College votes, but that requires a concession of defeat by the party that you ran against. Donald Trump is not going to concede. He's never going to concede an election that he knows he won overwhelmingly. The only other way you can become the president-elect is if you are voted on by the Electoral College, and then between December the 14th and when you're sworn in on January the 20th, you are the president-elect. So the mainstream media, the propagandists, are trying to sell the public a lie to make them think it's true that he's the president-elect. He's not. That's the truth. People have got to face the truth, because you've got to know the enemy. You always have to identify the enemy correctly when you go into battle. Same thing in a lawsuit. You got to know who your enemy is. You got to know how to attack him or defend. Ephesians 6 tells you how to deal with the enemy. The enemy is not the flesh. It's not these individuals. The enemy is the devil. It's powers and principalities that we're at war with right now.
You know,
so you're going to hear it. You're going to hear it from people, but it's powers and principalities. But we have to face the truth in this country. We have to face all of the truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Once you face it, then you've got to embrace it, and you've got to live it. You've got to live a life of truth. That's a life, it's a principled life, and that's a life consistent with the teachings of Jesus Christ. It is a life that will get you through the narrow gates of heaven to life eternal. Where people don't want to admit the truth of what they've done. They want to distort it. They want to misrepresent it. They want to hide it. That's not a life of truth. That's a life that's basically a lie. So if people could just be honest with one another and remember that we are different, but we are more similar than we are different, and focus on our similarities and not focus on our differences, we'd be a lot better place to live in, even though we'd still be imperfect. What they've tried to do in the last several months is they tried to divide us. They tried to emphasize our differences. If you focus on the differences, you will divide us. United we stand, divided we fall. That's why they've been trying to divide us. They've been trying to tell us, if you defend yourself, you'll go to jail. Even police officers acting appropriately have been charged with crimes, trying to keep the country from defending itself, because they are coming to get us. And we've got to defend ourselves in order to defend our country. It's that simple.
There's a spirit of lasciviousness going on. I mean, people are being told that you're somehow a bad person if you believe that a marriage is defined as a man and a woman coming together. People are being told that you're a bigot, you're a horrible person if you believe in Christ. You're being told you can't go to church. You're being told if you can't sing at church if you do go. You're being told you got to stand 6 feet apart. You got to have a mask you got to wear all the time. If you don't wear a mask, you're somehow putting other people at risk. What is up is down, down is up. Truth is being shared and communicated by the mainstream media as being false. What is false is being called to be true. And when you live in a world like that, you want to surround yourself with people that go to the Bible for the truth.
I think there's a lot of things going on right now that people are not going to recognize without the use of discernment. So they'll understand more than what just they see at first glance. Listen, in a perfect world, I'd like to see John Durham's report come out and people go to jail. Truth told about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and I'd like for a lot of people to go to jail. I'd like to see what's on Hunter Biden's laptop. I'd like to see those people go to jail. I'd like to see what's on Anthony Weiner's laptop. I'd like to see a lot of people go to jail. And then when we get to the final phase of the election fraud, I'd like to see a lot more people go to jail. the one thing I will say, there'll be an intermingling. There'll be people going to jail, I believe, who are involved in all of those or some of those same investigations. So there is potentially a great awakening. The truth has to come out. I believe it will. I do not think that you can hide the truth. I do say it, and I believe it. Every lie will be revealed. This country is going to be shocked when it learns the truth about who's been occupying the Oval Office for some periods of years. They're going to be shocked at the level of pedophilia. They're going to be shocked at what I believe will be a revelation in terms of people who actually engage in satanic worship.
And just so we're clear, because what you just said is a little bit out there, but all documented. If everybody will take just a moment and you'll go to timetofreeamerica.com, what I've tried to do is meticulously organize all of the facts. And one of the things you have to look at, okay, just so we're getting this idea, the patent number for the vaccines that are being developed by Moderna and Bill Gates, the patent number that Bill Gates chose was W02020, so World Order 2020, and the number is 060606. That's the patent number. Now, the actual name of the technology is called luciferase, and the technology was developed by Jeffrey Epstein, who sought to create his own race of people, as cited in the New York Times. And I encourage everybody to not believe anything I just said and go to today's show notes. And at the bottom, everything I've just said is cited. And when you see it, your head will explode. And part of you will say, I don't want it to be true. And that doesn't work. Because
I'll add one thing in if I can, Clay.
Yes.
And you won't see this where you're going for the reference, but I know as a matter of 100% fact, based on a person I know to be 100% reliable and knowledgeable, that in one of his temples on his island, there were birthing stations.
And I will say this. People need to understand this. Bill Gates chose to spend time with Epstein.
6 flights on his private jet.
Correct. And the guy who made the nanotechnology that is in the vaccines, his name is Charles Lieber. And Charles Lieber was arrested by the Department of Justice for failing to disclose that he was working with the Chinese, making $50,000 a month, Mr. Harvard, Mr. Dr. Charles Lieber. Lin, thank you for joining us.
God bless all of y'all. You got to keep getting the message out so that the people that are being deprived of the truth can learn the truth.
I shall
Remember
do it,
what
sir.
God said, John 3:21, I believe, he that doeth the truth cometh to the light. Truth is the way to live. God is truth. Truth is God. God is real. Thank you for letting me be on your show, and God bless all of you.